Today is June 20th, 2014, and we are interviewing Alger Johnson at the DAV convention in Springfield, Illinois. Mr. Johnson was born 4/27/1954. My name is Cheryl Walker, and I will be interviewing Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Yourself?
Doing great.
Great.
Can I ask you a few questions? Where and when were you born?
Well, I was born, like it says, 1954, in New York City, New York, in the old Harlem Hospital. It's no longer there, but that's where I was born.
So that would make you how old?
60. Made 60 this year. Thank God. Yeah.
Okay. And who are your parents? What are their names?
My parents, my father was Command Sergeant Major Alger V. Johnson. He was a lifer in the United States Army. And my mother was a registered nurse by the name of Emma Johnson.
Did you have any siblings?
We've had 9 altogether. Some of them haven't. Some of them aren't no longer with us. But I had it was 5 boys and 4 girls, and we grew up kind of happy. Pop took care of us, and by him being in the military all those years, I guess we kind of all. One went to the Army, that was me. One went to the Air Force. One went to the Navy, and one went to the Marine Corps. So we all kind of believe in serving our country.
What was the life of traveling around with your dad being in the service?
Well, I don't remember a lot of it. Once I got of a certain age, school age, we kind of, my mother and I kind of stayed still, with the family stayed still. But I do remember my father. I remember being with him in Fort Bragg, and just was amazed how the troops just respected him, and how when he came in, it was a whole different. People looked at us a little different because we were military kids, and we were always on the go. So it was kind of, you never really settled down and build any friendships up until, like I said, the time that I became of school age, and then the family started to settle in one place. So we came back to New York City, and that's where I kind of grew up. First 4 years down in Virginia. Again, felt a little alienated, felt a little different, only because we were on the move, and stayed there till 1st to 4th grade. Then we finally came back to New York City.
In the 9 children, where were you in the 9? Were you the baby? Were you the oldest? Were you middle child?
Believe it or not, out of the 5 boys, there's our oldest, there's a set of triplets, which I'm one of the triplets, and then there's my younger brother. I'm in the middle of the triplets, so I guess I'm in the middle of all 5. Yes. Yeah.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
I was in high school. I was a high school. I was a peaceful type of guy, and the draft was imminent at that time, and my draft number was going to be low for when I graduated. So what I did was I just went ahead and enlisted. I enlisted at an early age. I got out of high school at 17, so I needed my father's permission to go into the military, and my mother was against it. But I told her, look, if you don't do it, my father will give me the permission. So we wound up. At 17, I joined the military.
What made you choose the Army?
My dad. My dad was in the Army, and as a little boy growing up, you see your father and all the respect and pretty uniform and the way he carried himself. He was my hero. So I wanted to be just like my dad.
Mm-hmm. Very impressive. What was the highest rank that you achieved?
On the verge of E6, so the highest rank would be E5. As we called it back then, it was a buck sergeant with just the 3 stripes. Just made to the non-com after corporal, so I was hard striped. So.
Okay, explain to me why it was called a buck sergeant.
Because the buck stopped. The buck started at the sergeant, basically. This is when you could start designating stuff to roll downhill. You had a little bit of authority on you, so you were just a little buck sergeant. Like you have an older deer or whatever. Like a young buck. So you was just one of the young bucks, the young NCOs coming in and being fast. And so they kind of teased you, buck sergeant. Yeah.
How old were you when you went into the military?
I was 17. It was a choice that I'm glad I made. At that time in New York City, there wasn't a lot going on, but a lot of my friends, or the guys that I grew up with or went to school with, were becoming drugs was hitting heavy in New York at the time. It was the early '60s, and it just wasn't a nice place, and I didn't see a lot of opportunities. So I did what my father did. My father went in the Army at 16. I went in at 17. I was looking for something, and I found it. I was looking for the discipline. I was looking for to mean something, to have some value to my life, to get some understanding, to kind of find myself. I was already an athlete in high school, doing very well. So I ran track, played baseball, played football, played basketball. I'm not going to say I was the best, but I was decent at it, where I had confidence in myself and my abilities to do things. So when I went into the military, it just seemed like the right thing to do. Vietnam was hard and heavy. I didn't have an opinion either way on Vietnam, but I knew the military would be a way and out for me.
Where'd you go for basic training?
Basic training, I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. Interesting place. I don't even know how to... I remember we had seen all the stories about when you get off the bus, the drill sergeants are there waiting, and 3/4 of our company was from New York City. And I remember that whole day we were at this, I call it a compound downtown Manhattan, and we were waiting, and finally they took us to lunch, and we came back, we got on the buses, and we said goodbye to the Marine Corps guys, and we got to Fort Dix, and Drill Sergeant Aurelio, if you're still alive, God bless you. He comes, he says, hello, take your time, get off the bus, we have cookies and cartoons inside for you until the general of the base comes on television to welcome you. And we all looked at each other like this guy is up to something, And sure enough, we went inside, there was the cookies and the Kool-Aid, and cartoons were on there, but little did we know that next week was going to be Hell Week. But basic training was, it was interesting because, like I said, being an athlete all my life, I never had a problem multitasking, doing things or doing anything physical, and to see so many people from so many different walks of life who couldn't do a proper sit-up, or who couldn't do the bars, or who just couldn't do anything that was physical. In the environment I grew up, everybody ran, jumped, and played, and and did these type things. So I just assumed everybody was like that, and it was a serious awakening for me. I'll never forget, the best thing I remembered from being a kid was when my father was on base and I heard him marching and hearing the cadence, where sometimes I would get lost in basic, in my own head, when it was foggy outside in the morning and you'd hear the cadence and people walking in the distance, and it was one footstep and you hear the cadence going on, That used to just spark me up because it would bring back childhood memories. But I do, one thing about basic training was that we all started out raw and whatnot. By the end of that 8th week, right after record fire, you started to see a 6th week, 7th week, we became one well-oiled machine. And you build a lot of camaraderies there. And that's when you first start knowing that you have to split, And so splitting up, some of us went to the same unit, some of us didn't. But basic training is something that's very impressionable. I think every young man that grows up from age 18 to 21 should experience something like that to get the discipline. I think that really changed this country around.
Did you make any friends that you've kept that friendship going?
Unfortunately, no. Your intentions are good, but when you get separated, it seems like now you have other things on your mind. Being young, you're being exposed to a lot more. There's a knowledge curve that's there. So it's kind of like you don't mean for it to happen. You still think about it, but someone else will fit in that slot now, because now you're at a point in your life where everyone has a certain role to play, to be a part of what you're a part of. So after we left basic training and we went to jump school or we went to AIT, a buddy of mine was supposed to go to jump school with me, but he chickened out. So he left and did something else. So then when I got to my advanced infantry training, I had got delayed by going to jump school, so my basic training guys were gone, and I had to wait for another class down in Louisiana to come through to take my advanced infantry training. You know, so it was, you always find someone there that maybe you plug in for the time being. So yeah, a lot of people, I remember a few guys, especially in the hospital, before I got out, who I was in the hospital with, we said we were going to keep in touch, and it just, life just happens. Kind of sweeps you away.
So, you just said that you went to jump school.
Yes.
Okay, can you explain that?
Okay, jump school is paratrooper school. In basic training, you have a guy from the 82nd Airborne come through. And understand, when I came into service in 1970, I was making $96 a month. And here's a gentleman coming telling me, we'll give you an extra $55 to jump out of planes. Now, my father was a senior jump master down in Fort Bragg, so quite naturally, he had the mosquito wings on. I had to get the mosquito wings. So for an additional $45, here it is, I'm 17 years old, and I'm making about $150 a month, and with no expenses, which back then, $150 a month was quite a large sum of money. And so I went to jump school. What jump school taught me was to conquer my fears. I mean, I'm quite sure we all have a fear of something, and what it was is that I had a fear of the unknown. It looked like fun, but it was unknown. But it taught me to now, whenever a fear comes, to let me know that, you know what, a lot of times you're afraid of something that hasn't happened, and that you still have kind of control of the outcome. So go ahead and challenge those fears and do what you need to do. It doesn't make you a hero, it just makes you a person that has learned to conquer your fears. So jump school, I mean, if I haven't gotten anything else out of that, it's the confidence in my abilities and the fact that I could conquer my fears. And then a lot of times you find out the thing that you're afraid of, if you just go ahead and do it, you wind up enjoying it. So, yes.
Did that mean that you were a paratrooper?
I was assigned, yes, I was assigned a paratrooper, yes. It was funny because I wanted the 82nd Airborne Division because that's where my father's unit was, and instead I got assigned to the 173rd. So, it was an adventure. I felt proud. You gotta understand, as a young man feeling proud, and you've got the mosquito wings on your chest, and you know you've got a unit patch here, and you've got an airborne. It's just something that just kind of makes you stick your chest out. You know, it's kind of like almost being the elite of the elite. You know, and at that age, I was very impressionable. So, and like I said, I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps.
After you did that, you still had to go to AIT?
Yes, ma'am. What happens is that in the military, you'll go to basic training, and then you'll go to whatever your skill is or your advanced training. I qualified for infantry, which means I had to go to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and it's North Fort, but it's nicknamed Tigerlands. And normally that's the breeding place or the training place for, at that time, for people going to Germany and Vietnam. And some will go to Korea. But what it is that you're involved into your infantry activities, learning how to be part of a team, learning how to just function as an infantryman, as well as other things for survival and so forth, so on.
And what year was this?
1970. Fort Polk, Louisiana is a whole different place. I mean, it's hot. You know, they have scorpions and quicksand and alligators and snakes and bobcats and you name it, they have it down there, you know. So like I said, it was quite impressive as a young man coming from New York City, basically in Manhattan where we hardly have grass. We have stick trees, and to be down there with all this wilderness and then just to see it and experience it, was kind of overwhelming for me, you know. Yeah. That brought to mind of a time we went to guard duty, and when I first got out of there, you're armed with a pipe and clipboard and so forth with a flashlight, you know, and it's almost twilight. I saw some rabbits, and their eyes gleamed in my flashlight. At first, I got frightened and thought they were monsters until I really looked at them. So it was quite an adventure for a young man coming from New York City to have to deal with some of the elements.
So you had full guard duty.
Oh yes, some kind of guard duty, fire watch, CQD, something. You always had to pull your load and kind of chip in and be part of the team. You know, everybody had some sort of extra responsibilities to do as well. And we had KP too. We still had to do KP, so you know.
Did you still have to shine your boots and keep a pressed
Oh yeah.
uniform?
Yes, we had occasional inspections. We actually had 2 pair of boots, and one we put a white dot on. And so either the company would tell you, and this stems from basic training on, the company would either tell you, okay, today is white dot day, or it's not, but whatever it was, this was so that you could rotate your boots. Because the infantryman, one of your most important means of equipment, or pieces of equipment, is your boots. Because you're on your feet, you have to take care of your feet because you depend on your feet. Run, jump, come out of the sky, the fall, the land, whatever, everything depends on your feet. So if you can keep the infantryman's feet in proper health, then therefore you can do a lot of things with it. So we also had to rotate our boots, shoes, socks, so forth, so on, for hygiene purposes. And then we would have inspections. We would have battalion inspections, company inspections, you know, whatever. What it is that you had to maintain the, I guess, the look and the feel of a soldier. You couldn't just be a raggedy bum out there, you know. You had to maintain some sort of protocol. And I think that's them. I still carry that with me to the day. We had something called a gig line, which is you line up your shirt with your pants opening. And so everything has to be straight with your belt in a certain position. And, you know, so some things are still, I carry with me to the day. But
do
yeah.
You still do that?
Oh yes. It was a funny thing, probably shouldn't be saying this, but it was a funny thing, inspections. I had a nice size afro, and what I would do for each day was I would put some hair grease and a stocking cap and tie it real tight, so that an afro that was about maybe this big, the next day would be about this big. And so it was, I got a kick out of that because people used to ask me, is that a wig, and so forth, so on. So we learned how to deal with inspections. Being 17 years old, I didn't have any hair on my face, and so they would tease me and tell me to go in the barracks and let the cat lick my face and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but the inspections were good because you know what, you carry on that hygiene to the day. You know, there may be some people, I remember there were people that had never taken a bath. They take a bath once a week, so forth, so on, because this was their environment of where they come from. And so now what happens is that we were all taught, you know, better hygiene, how to better take care of ourselves and things like that. How to take care of your house, you know, how to straighten up, how to be neat, how to be organized. So yeah, a lot of people think the inspections are just something just to see how you do, but it also establishes an organizational pattern in your life as well. And that I think I carry with me to this day. Plus the fact that my father was a lifer in there, and I was already accustomed to this from home. So.
Now, when you went to AIT in Fort Polk, you said that they went there and you either were going to go to Korea, Vietnam, or Germany.
Yes.
Did you know which one you were going to go to?
You kind of try to get in good with the company clerk. And what has happened with our unit, we were all destined to go to Korea, and I think about 8 of us were going to Germany. And at the last minute, our orders got rescinded 2 days before the graduation ceremony. And we got rescinded to Vietnam. So, yeah, but it's while you're there, it's a highly competitive because you've made it to this point. You want to be the best of the best. You have war games and so forth, maneuvers. You don't want to be the worst of the worst, you know. You don't want to be a casualty, so you try to do the best you can. And like I said, being an athlete, I just felt that I was supposed to be up there as number one because I could run, I could do this, I can do that. You know, I was physically fit. So, but yeah, the reality of where you're going doesn't really hit you when you're in AIT. It doesn't really hit you when your orders are there. It doesn't hit you until you're in an overseas replacement station. And we had a saying that the Salvation Army used to give us these little blue plastic bags, the Salvation Army on the outside, and inside was this cardboard box, and you'd have like a comb and a toothbrush and a Bible, and when we saw that Bible, we was like, uh-oh, you know, that's not too good. That always means trouble. So whenever they gave you a Salvation Army handout or something, you kind of, uh-oh, here we go, you know. I think it wasn't until Overseas Replacement that we were kind of in like this compound, and your phone calls were free, telegrams were free, your posters was free, and you know, there's a lot of chatter was going on. Once we found out what RVN meant, you know, there's a lot of chatter was going on. I felt sorry for a lot of guys older than me who had wives, babies, you know. I was a young guy, and I figured my name was Alger. They don't know how to spell my name, so it's not on a bullet, you know. I just, whatever I needed to do to get me to deal with that, you know. My father had got hit 9 times, and he made it. So, you know, I was destined to make it. So, you know, it's and then again, being young, you don't realize the severity of what you're about to encounter, you know.
Now, okay, when you found out that you were going to Vietnam, did you get a R&R? Did you get to go home?
No.
You didn't?
No. We had 3 days from the time, again, our orders got rescinded, so we got withheld in Fort Polk. Those that lived close could, they took advantage of the 3-day. Us that didn't, we couldn't go anywhere. We basically had to be, were assigned to our barracks until the time that our orders had, they had already arranged for us to fly out to Seattle, Washington, to go to Fort Lewis. So basically 3 days wasn't going to get me anything. You know, it would take me a day and a half or so maybe to get from, by the time I would leave and get to New York, you know, I'd have to leave like maybe the next day or something. So it didn't make sense to go home. So I messed around in Louisiana a little bit, went over to Fort Lewis, Washington, and just kind of checked in, you know. I think it was better that way also, because maybe if I had the long goodbyes or something, I may not have reported, you know. My father would have seen that I did though, but I mean, you know, I may not have wanted to, you know.
Did you, so you flew out of Fort Lewis, did you fly commercial?
It was, yeah. But there was a lot of GIs was on here, so we flew commercial, but it was out of a military base. So, yeah. That was only like besides jumping out of the plane, I had never really been on the plane and had never really taken that long of a trip, you know. And I believe we flew from there to Guam, and then from Guam straight into Benoit Airfield. Yeah.
And is that when?
I wasn't even old enough to drink. That was the thing. I wasn't old enough to drink, but I was old enough to die. And I couldn't understand that, you know. And, of course, a couple of guys, I can say it now, you know, a couple of guys would buy me one and then slide it over to me or something like that, you know.
So were you 18?
No, ma'am, I'm still 17.
Still 17?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you over in Vietnam?
9 months, 14 days.
How, so your staging station was?
But I came into Benoit Air Base.
Okay.
And then we got sent up north to where the 173rd Airborne Division was, up around Ban Song. All I remember was standing out, it was hot, tarmac, it's, oh God, 120 degrees maybe, and we're standing out in the sun, and I'm seeing these big, huge planes take off, C-139, C-141s and stuff, and we're at attention, and I remember being on the vest, and I'm looking at this plane, and I'm watching this plane go over, and the lieutenant colonel comes to me, he says, son, what are you thinking right now? And without a hesitation, I'm saying, sir, I think I should have joined the Air Force, sir, and everybody started laughing, but I was, in my career, I was always like that. If you ask me, I guess I was still so naive that I actually told you what I was thinking, and it always came out funny, and you know, that's how I remember my whole career. over there in the military and in Vietnam. If you ask me what was on my mind, it came out, and everybody thought it was funny. You know, one of the things that happened though was I stuttered, and I remember being at the back in the AIT, and I remember asking the sergeant something else. Sergeant, excuse me, but and he started acting like I was shooting him. He says, "Tell him to stop. He killed me already." And everybody just fell out of the bleachers and everything. And I says, "I'm going to learn to talk." And at that time period, I was so here's what you have to understand. When you asked me something, I was telling you honestly what was on my mind, because I had made a decision that I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore, and I was going to learn how to speak and how to talk. So just, I guess my first few words always came out funny, you know. But yeah, so we were stationed up in Bong Tong, and previous to that had been a Tet Offensive that I missed. And you start hearing the stories, and you know, at first nobody really wants to be around you. I guess they're checking you out and observing you, but I knew that I had to listen. You know, all the games were over. You know, we could have fun, but you know what? I had to be careful, and everything had to be deliberate. So I paid attention, and I think stuttering helped me out, because I was able to be quiet and listen and learn, you know. Yeah.
How many jumps did you do?
Oh, I only did the obligatory jumps in jump school. I didn't do any jumps over in Vietnam. So we did our 3 jumps, our 3 qualifying jumps at the time. I don't know if it's changed now, but I still remember my jump commands and the whole 9. So yeah, but I only did the 3 obligatory ones that were necessary.
And where all were you stationed, or where all did you go in Vietnam?
Basically, I stayed around Bang Tong. I mean, I would take I've been to Long Binh, kind of like on a pass or in R&R. Been to Saigon. I can't say that on the tape. There was a bar that we call a bar something else around there.
Okay.
Basically, I had been to Saigon for R&R. I went to Sydney, Australia. I did have the chance to go to Bangkok, Thailand for a couple of days. So, and then coming back, we stopped in Hong Kong with a buddy of mine. We went there, and it's just, like I said, we could have fun, but you had to be deliberate when you came back in country, you know. I was able to travel. I got lucky. I knew some people, you know. I don't know, I guess by me being young, I was always the baby everywhere I went. A lot of people just liked me and just kind of took me under their wing. So I think I had more than an extraordinary experience over in Vietnam.
Did you turn 18 over there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That there's something about turning 18 in a hostile country that when you come back home, yeah, you can appreciate getting older, but you know, the holidays just don't mean anything. I mean, I've seen Thanksgiving and Christmas and birthday, and I mean, so when you come back home, it's like they don't really mean as much, because my youth was kind of taken from me. So therefore, it didn't mean, you know, the happiness that I knew it then is just was something.
Do you remember coming home?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got hit, so I had to learn to walk again. So I had a little limp and I had a cane. And again, I came back to Fort Polk. Why, I have no idea. And so I put on civilian clothes and I hung out with some guys, and I went to Houston to take the plane home, and the sky marshals, well, anyway, the guy behind the ticket desk gave me some static because I didn't have my orders with me, because I had a military standby ticket to go home. And I got angry at him and almost reacted to him, and the sky marshal came out. And he talked to me, and he was also a Vietnam vet, and he told me, he says, "Where's your bags?" I told him, and he said, "Why don't you put your uniform back on?" And because I didn't know how to deal with civilian, I got all this money on me that I got when I ETS. They paid me cash money and part check, and so I put my uniform back on, and I felt more comfortable till I got home. And when I got home, picked up my bags, came out of the airport, and there was like people. There were signs, hippies or whatever you want to call them. And there was a few of us that were coming home, and they were spitting at us. They were doing all kind of stuff, and I was highly confused. And so anyway, I got home and took a cab from Queens to the Bronx, rang the doorbell, and my stepmother answered the door and says, "What are you doing here?" And the dog was the first person that recognized me. My dog just came and hit me and knocked me hit me in my chest and knocked me against the wall, and so that's the only memory that I have right now, being home. And then after that, everybody wanted to ask me questions. Did you kill anybody? Did you see any dead bodies? Did you? And it's just something I just didn't want to deal with. I almost went back, but I said, let me give civilian life a chance, Yeah.
Well, you are a member of the DAV.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a lifetime member. Have been since about 1974, 76.
Are you a member of any other veteran?
I'm a member of the American Legion, Post 2 in Peoria, and I was a member of the VFW, Post 8662 in Peoria.
How did your military experience affect your life?
I think one of the things it did, it gave me a maturity that people my age, everyone thought I was a lot older than what I was. I guess because of my discipline, my experiences, I've overcome odds. Anytime you're in a hostile situation and you make it home, you've overcome the odds. You defy the odds, rather. Also, I think it made me see things in a different perspective, and it also gave me the confidence that I could do anything. Any job interview I went for, except for when I learned in the beginning not to tell them I was a vet, which is crazy. We couldn't get jobs, and when I didn't, because of my age, I would have been graduating high school right about the time that I got out of the military. So I stopped telling them I was vets and started getting jobs. And then later on, I would tell them I was a vet, and either I would get terminated or whatever because of the sentiment of the Vietnam vet at the time. And then also, once it was established that I was a veteran from the Vietnam era, then what would happen is people would look at you a little differently on your job. And seemed like whenever a veteran got in a bind and did something, he was crazy. So I think a lot of times just fighting off that stigma, just trying to show people, look, here's me, here's what I can do. We're not crazy. We just went through something. Now we want to come home and just be a part of society and just do what we want to do. Not really be left alone, but yeah, we do want to be left alone. I feel better when I'm around fellow veterans. We have a camaraderie. It's kind of like the police have a secret line. Well, we veterans have a secret line too. That's something that will be with us to the day we die. My father used to always tell me, he says, old soldiers don't die, they just fade away. So that'll be something that'll be with us till we fade away. And unless somebody has been a veteran, they don't have that. So as far as my personal life, that's how it just seems that when I hear some guy's a vet, we just kind of click. A non-vet just kind of, I don't know. Other than the self-confidence and everything, I'm finally proud to be a veteran and proud to be a Vietnam veteran. It took me a while, I guess, just to be able to accept the fact that I made it home. Being a veteran and and having defied the odds, when somebody says thank you for your service, it kind of sometimes it bothers you because you made it back and the other guys didn't. I said those are some of the things that affect me in my everyday life.
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this?
Number one, thank everybody for your support. Understand we're veterans of people too. Understand the master's degrees, the sociologists, the psychologists, you guys mean well, but it takes a veteran to know what to do to help another veteran. So if you're gonna come out with some kind of help program, enlist a veteran that's been there, listen to veterans, listen to the veterans. We know what's plaguing us and we know what's best kind of solutions for us. Other than that, this is a great country. I've been halfway around the world. There's no place I'd rather be than the United States. If you like being here, you have a right to be here, but just remember, your rights are not free, so the price of freedom is not free. So there's nothing wrong with serving your country. That's all I can say.
Well, Mr. Johnson, I would like to take this time and tell you thank you for serving our country.
Yes, ma'am.
Most of all, I would like to thank you for the honor you have given me to interview you today. I appreciate it.